I'm live, and I'm hoping to be live on Facebook too, but this isn't working out. Okay, we're gonna go live because we're gonna have Don Costa in here. My goal here is to really go live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time because people that are in our Facebook group, which it's about 3,000 of them, they will get to see firsthand of these conversations that we have with these diamond topic players. And I have Costa here in the other side. So let me get Don in here so that we can start our podcast. What's up, my man?
What's going on, buddy?
Love seeing you, and look at the dark, the really dark background you got.
I lost my background when we left left Zoom. So
You lost it when wet?
when we left Zoom, yeah. So
Oh
that was,
yeah.
it was a virtual. So I got a pretty large TV behind me, but I don't have a background going on right now. So it's just dark, just black.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like, I don't know, have you ever seen Alex Becker, the guy from YouTube? Has like everything he does is like super dark, and he just has his face there, just that's it, and everything is just black. That's kind of like his thing.
Yeah,
He's
no,
good.
I haven't seen it. No. Yeah.
Okay. So what we're gonna do usually here we are live. We get to be live inside of a Facebook private group, so people have a first hands in before we do the post editing. But at this current moment, Facebook is giving me a block of going live, so YouTube is the only one. So well, we'll start recording the podcast right after the demo. Right after the intro, which is exactly what we are going to play right now. All right,
Perfect.
give me a second here. Which is exactly okay. Sharing this YouTube inside the Facebook group because Facebook is being hard. It's playing horrible. Perfect. Um, all right, Don. Let's get ready. And three, two, and let's go.
Mic check. I'm good.
Mic check, mic check. You can read about success all day long, but if you don't put in the work, the mindset, execution, and the hustle behind your vision, it just remains a dream.
When everything goes wrong, you have to take all the responsibility.
We uncover what high-level entrepreneurs, business owners do to rise up from hustling daily.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Join me as I share with you actionable tips to help you grow your business, learn skills, and help you level up in your self-development journey.
Your number one spot for business and personal growth is the Online Hustlers Podcast with your host, Esteban Andrade.
All right, guys. So, what I have one special guest today in the Online Hustlers podcast, where we gonna be covering episodes for REI marketing and conversion episodes, and we're gonna be bringing in diamond tablet players. And this one that we have right here, his name is Don Costa, the real Don. And obviously, when I was in Michigan, I was watching a lot of podcasts. I was watching a lot of consuming this content. I also got to know my Michigan man, Mike Cowper, down there, and he was working with this real Don, the man. So basically, right here, Mr. Don is been working in the flipping the business for a really long time. I would like to really introduce you uh, to the Flip Talk host as well. Is a very good podcast that you will see and learn all about real estate investing, wholesaling, flipping. So I have a very very special guest with you in front of you. If you don't take advantage of this episode today, You have to go and watch every single one of his podcast episodes and really get that tons of value in different topics that he covered. But hey, Don, how's everything going, my man?
Hey, how's it going? I'm good, man.
I love having people that are properly using this mic, such as you sound so crisp, so perfect, man. You've been running that podcast already for some time. I'm assuming
Mhm.
to add a lot of value on it. And this is the whole concept to here of for this podcast where people get diamond type of nuggets. I call them diamond because we want to take it to other levels to these people, bring in real things and for example, you man, you currently are in the real estate and wholesaling business. You're in the investing business. You flip, but you are very well known by really having that remodeling business model. You do 100 plus deals, 100 plus flips every single year, and while you're also running your podcast, you have a family, beautiful family. I love to know more about you, man. I love to really understand what is really taking what's the power behind that Don Costa, what's the power behind the real Don, and here explain to everyone here who is the Don Costa.
That's a loaded, that's a loaded question.
Yes,
I'm just, I'm just an everyday guy, entrepreneur. I'm trying to make my way in the world. At the end of the day, I think like most people who are entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial, you don't find yourself capable of being handcuffed by a time clock. So, and I was one of those people that couldn't do that. So in 2002, I um, basically quit my W-2 job and set off to be an entrepreneur. And that's ultimately the last time I got a paycheck. So through the years, I have just tried to figure things out and learn and grow as a person. Try to essentially stand in the fire and do what needs to be done to get where I want to go. So there's been a lot of ups and downs, failures and wins, and at the end of the day, the only difference between I think me and anybody else who is on the journey, some people I am ahead of, and some people are ahead of me. And so time's the only thing that separates. Yeah, I think time and hard work, basically, the only thing that separates you from people who have what you want, if that makes sense. And
absolutely.
yeah, that defines it in a nutshell, I think.
Man, you obviously have been in the business for quite a while now,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people enter this business in the wholesaling side because it has a very easier access to entry. What was your first form of just real estate and wholesaling, or just real estate entrepreneurship coming into the business that really got you to a point where you are?
Yeah, I started way back in 2003, and I started looking at. I quit my job in 2002. I started another business with a friend, and that the lifestyle of that business wasn't conducive to what I wanted for my future. So I ended up after about a year leaving that, and then I started the journey in real estate. I had been looking at real estate for probably, I would say, 3 to 5 years before that, ultimately. And at the end of the day, I was scared. I think, like most people, I was scared to get started. This is back when Carlton Sheets was the big deal, and some of the other, gurus at the time were big deals. And it was the infomercial time, and we didn't have podcast or YouTube to learn from. It was buy books and tapes or go to a seminar. And so, just I had circled the idea of real estate investing. I knew it was something I wanted to do, but I was scared. I didn't know how to get started. And back then, wholesaling wasn't really talked about. Like it was probably a thing. I don't want to say it wasn't a thing, but it wasn't a thing on my radar. So for me, it was either be a buy and hold investor or be a fix and flip investor. And when I got into it, the direction I went was fix and flip investor. Ultimately, I wholesaled properties here and there. I would say accidental wholesaler through the years. But I didn't take wholesaling seriously until 2018. So I kind of did the opposite. We're wholesaling more now in 2021 than rehabbing, whereas traditionally we would rehab more than wholesale. And so I've kind of went backwards. Some people will wholesale first and then become a heavy rehabber. I've taken the opposite direction.
Absolutely, man. And you said that by accident. You've wholesaled deals in the past. I
Mhm.
guess sometimes you just find that deal that you don't want to take and then just give it to someone, or how did that work?
It was more so, I had built a pretty good network of, individuals in my market that I had worked with. Some of them were private money lenders that would rehab properties on their own as well. And so I would lock up a really, really good deal. And, one of my lenders would make me an offer on the property I couldn't refuse. And again, I don't even think I really at the time thought about it as wholesaling or even thought about that was not intentional about it. It was more so like I had this deal, I intended on rehabbing it. Somebody made me an offer I couldn't refuse on it, and I took the money and sold them the property. Generally, to tell you the truth, in a lot of cases, it was a wholesale situation where I had closed on the property and then ended up selling it to a lender more so than it was a wholesale, if that makes sense. So, again, it wasn't something that what I had entered into that transaction intentionally to do. It just kind of became whatever it was through the process of that transaction. So it's it wasn't until the early 2012 2013 where I started buying from wholesalers more and more and started looking at it and taking it seriously. But even then, from a rehabber standpoint, and I'm going to say this tongue in cheek, but a lot of rehabbers look at wholesalers as the amateurs, the amateur hour,
Yeah.
right? And it's not the case. There are some very, very successful, sophisticated investors that use wholesaling as their primary business model. But when you've always been a rehabber, as many years as I've been a rehabber, you kind of look at the wholesaler as the person who's starting in the business, and you almost don't want to, you know, um, for lack of a better term, lower your standards to become a wholesaler when you are a fix and flipper. So, if that makes sense in any way, shape, or form. So it was a big mindset shift for me. They are two totally different businesses. How you look at them, how you look at leads, everything is different because with rehab as a rehabber, it either fits in your box or it doesn't. And if somebody wants to buy outside your box for a higher amount, you think they're insane or stupid or don't run a good business. That's the whole. If you ever listen to a rehabber talk, that's the way they talk. So you have to change your mindset and realize that people have different buying models. They have different business models. Maybe they have different skill sets than you have, and they're capable of doing things at different pricing. And so you have to let all that go to add wholesaling to your business if you've always rehabbed.
I love the way that you're actually looking at it, because I've had experiences myself where even as someone that used to do wholesale, or continuously does wholesale, but started this journey as a wholesaler, where rehabbers kind of have this sometimes this entitled personality. But I have the
Mhm.
money, I can
Mhm.
take care of my flips, I
Right.
do the rehab, I have the whole team here to move this property, so you just bring me a deal.
Mhm.
And they some of this they don't see the value, because I feel like whenever you're a rehabber, most of them they will rely on the circle connections, all this leverage around them, right? Joint ventures all the time. People, is that how you started as well? Is that kind of like your mostly your network that brought
Mhm.
you the deals?
Well, okay, so yes and no. I started twice in this business. There's a longer story here, but from 2008 till about 2012, I basically lost everything because I was, for lack of a better explanation, I was a tool and ran a bad business. But I started in 2003. I started door knocking pre foreclosures. I didn't really utilize my network until I had the opportunity to utilize my network as private lenders. Essentially, I was really good at closing deals, and I would compete against people at the doorstep, and I would get the contract, and I would ask them to lend on the project. And I created relationships that way. To keep a long story short, but primarily, I started door knocking pre foreclosures. I just drove in my car for 4 or 5 hours a day, every day, religiously, OCD about it, and I was really good at getting deals. The second time I started back up in 2012, when I got back into real estate after my hiatus, it was network. It was 100% network. I started building relationships with agents. I started building relationships with wholesalers, and a large portion of my deal flow was relationship and network based for a long time. MLS was part of it. At the time, you could buy properties at the MLS pretty successfully. Right now, it's a little harder, obviously, but and then relationships were significant.
Absolutely. So even though as a rehabber, someone that is really hands-on into the real estate game, you still had something that a lot of people need to understand. to really be successful in this business, such as that's one, lead generation.
Mhm.
You grinded, had OCD on doing the door knocking, driving for dollars, finding those properties. But it seems to me that you also were good at closing deals, so
Mhm.
sales, right? So
Mhm.
that's the second one. So just talk to me about this, because I believe that as a rehabber, you are good into making that deal happen, and you just have the money, you purchase it from from a wholesaler. But usually they don't know how to talk to people, they don't know how to do sales, like they don't understand the whole sales process and the science of 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 just making sure that whoever has that deal, or whoever has that property, such as a seller, gives it to you because you're the best. So yeah,
Yeah.
like
Well,
to
what's the question specifically, I guess?
the question is, I like to understand, um you being a rehabber,
Mhm.
um like how important it was at the time of you being really good in closing deals, like actually being a good salesperson, like being good in sales.
I mean, it's pretty significant, if you can touch all aspects of your business and be at least effective in them, you're going to be a lot more successful out of the gate. Obviously, if you're good at one thing and not good at the other, you can start to build a team around you to offset some of those deficiencies. But at the end of the day, um, you you really how do I answer this and be effective in my answers? So ultimately, I wanted it bad enough. Okay, let's put it that way. I wasn't good at sales right out of the gate. I think
Hmm.
that's the best way to answer it. A lot of people will overthink it and they won't even try sales. They won't think they're good at it. I wasn't good at it out of the gate. What I did was every time I had a conversation, I would sit in my car and I'd Monday morning quarterback the conversation. And then I would just, I'd think, should I have said this? Should I have said that? Did I ask all the right questions? Did I not dig deep enough into pain points? And it got to the point where I started to build this muscle memory. So when I was talking to sellers, ultimately, end of the day, I was able to start to read, tone inflection, the cadence of the conversation, body language, almost instinctually. And that was something that it was a habit I wanted to have. It was a skill set I wanted to have, and that's ultimately, I think, the best thing to say to people is, you know, um, using speaking on stage. I speak on stage a lot now. I was terrified of speaking on stage, but I wanted to do it, and so I got comfortable doing it. Every day I'm going to speaker training this weekend. Every day I look for the opportunity to level up my skill set. When it came to rehabbing, it was the same thing. I wasn't good at it right out of the gate. I was actually horrible at it right out of the gate. I was in a market that hit all my flaws. I had contractors take advantage of me on pricing and timelines and you name it. And again, I was in a market that hit my flaws in 2003, 4, and 5. So if I took longer and went over budget, I still made more money. So when I got back into the business, I looked at all the mistakes I made and said, how do I not make those mistakes again? And I leveled up. I stood in Home Depot and Lowe's for hours at a time, looking at and mapping out the products I needed to do an effective rehab and what they cost and how much I would need, and identified that I need 700 linear feet for a 1500 of baseboard for a 1,500 square foot house on average, right? And what would that cost in material cost, and what should that cost in labor? And it got to a point where I because I wanted it bad enough, I was able to effectively master the skill of being able to manage and control a rehab. And every time I ran into points of sales or points of rehabbing or points of borrowing private money that really were painful or sucked or weren't effective for me, I would sit back and I would look for the path of least resistance. And I would say, okay, what can I change? What can I do about either myself and my skill set or the people I have around me or a system and process in my organization that's going to make that suck less in the future? And I would find that path of least resistance and I would learn it, implement it, or hire for it. And that's how you build a real business. So that's kind of, I think, a broader answer than you asked, but it's how I look at everything, and it's how I became. I'm going to brag on myself. I try not to. I try to stay humble, but I am effective at closing. I'm effective at sales. And one of the things I'm doing right now is trying to figure out how and why I am. Well, if a seller wants to sell and they're going to sell to anybody, they're going to sell to me. And I know that. And And so it's how do I teach that? And that's one of the things I'm working on right now, because you start to develop this unconscious competence in the things you do, whether it's sales or managing people or, building teams. And so right now I'm trying to pull out and map out, like, what is it that great salespeople do in this industry that really make them successful. And some of it is having a good sales process, but a good sales process can only go so far. A good sales process is good for people that aren't capable of having the desire to level up and master the skill, right? They'll be able to go through the sales process and be effective. But if you want to be a killer in this business, you got to be willing to Monday morning quarterback yourself, ask yourself the hard questions, learn how to level up. And that's the part I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. So how do we level up really? Because at a point you were starting in real estate since 2003, right? Around 2000. I mean, you were there before, but you had your rehab business starting out, and then you went through this whole thing until 2012.
Mhm.
That kind of like made, like you said, your business kind of crumble. Or was this that you couldn't level up at the rate that you were supposed to, or was it different just external forces that made you do that? Like, I guess it was part of the 2009
Mhm.
crisis, 2009 crisis. But like, you started leveling up after that. So I like to really walk the listeners into like this leveling up process that you had to do to where you are, and then even now
Right.
you're taking into your inner circle. Let's walk through that leveling up process as a rehabber, man, as a flipper that now now does wholesale, understands the wholesale mentality, understands marketing, understands sales, understand that you cannot just rely on being a rehabber and always having that work. And if you want your more deals, you're doing 100 deals plus a year, you have to level up. So let's walk through that, man.
Well, part of it, okay, so when it comes to like acquisitions, like I that was something that I was bound and determined to level up on in day one. If, I was driving, I was talking to homeowners in pre-foreclosure, I was knocking on doors. I had a ton of competition. We're talking about 2003, 2004, 5, 6, ton of competition in the industry back then. And I made it a point that, if you're going to sell to anybody, you're going to sell to me. And, how did I have to be effective? What did I have to know? What did I have to understand about just the negotiations, the process, the people, how to manage my time properly and be effective and efficient. And I really dialed into that really, really hard, because at the time, really, if you're effective at getting the deal, you're going to be successful no matter how bad you are at everything else. But at the time, I knew that getting the deal was number one most important thing. What happened though is that was really the only thing I worked on leveling up on. I was in a market again that hid mistakes. So I created a business around me. I had multiple businesses. I had a real estate company, property management company, lending company. I was flipping houses. I was investing in other projects, and I was an ineffective leader. I wasn't building the proper team around me. I wasn't giving the proper lead. I didn't have the proper leadership skills, in the sense that I was a bottleneck in my organization. I didn't trust the people around me to do their job. And so I didn't have a great team. But again, money hides flaws. I hired some of the worst contractors you could hire. I would shake their hand. They tell me 2 weeks and 20 grand, 3 months later, 40 grand later, the job's still not done. But again, we're in a market where if you take your time on a project because you have went over budget or whatever, and it takes longer to rehab, you still make more money. So I thought I had the illusion that I had this fantastic business because I was making tons of money, and I didn't have to be effective. So really, at that point, the only thing I leveled up on was sales. Just hands down, not gonna lie. I was a douchebag. I was a tool. I thought everything I touched turned to gold, and I thought it was never going to end. I was very arrogant, and I didn't feel like I had to be effective in anything else. When 2008 and 9 happened, essentially I lost everything, because I did not. It wasn't so much that 2008 happened that I lost everything. It's because I was on a sand foundation. I wasn't on a strong foundation. I was running a very bad business, a very ineffective business that was burning through a lot of money ineffectively. And when 2008 happened, all I did was shine a big spotlight on the issues that I had, and I couldn't correct them fast enough to stop the bleeding. And I just basically bled out. So when I got back in 2012, I was much more conservative. I was very scared and timid of real estate investing in the market. So I entered in kind of, much more timid, much more careful, much more cautious, very, very, very less trusting of people in general. I questioned everything, questioned everybody, because I was a product of basically, it's like you, I hate to use this term, but you have somebody that's been spooked or scared or abused or neglected for a period of time, and they're going to be either combative or very timid about every interaction they have, right? And that was kind of, for lack of a better example, the way I entered back into real estate investing. I was always looking over my shoulder, questioning whether or not I was working with the best people, getting the best deal, whether or not I could trust them. And that actually was really effective for me because it allowed me to put processes in place and to approach things in a way of, finding the best people around me and getting me in a position where I could trust them and get out of their way and let go. And ultimately put systems and processes in place to allow me to have a real business, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So I think we covered very, very important things. Sales is one of the things that you had to master. You mastered it with the art of negotiating, getting a deal,
Mhm.
making those sellers be that person they want to do business with, in which you
Right.
do it now. Um, I'm assuming that lead generation at some point you had to scale it to be able to truly, truly like do more of wholesales, get more deals apart from what you get from your JVs or your network. But systems, the systems that you had to really create. And I also believe, man, any organization, regardless of what it is, if you don't have a system to lead your team to success and to make sure that things don't fall through a crack, make sure that you have a sustainable way of keep intaking more deals, getting the right people in the right seat, and if for some reason something goes wrong, that the system is there to back
Mhm.
it up. And a lot of people starting this game as just like it's in YouTube. I see it. I can make it happen. It seems fine, easy, but they don't see it as a systems business mindset, because
Mhm.
it's for them it's not a business right now, right? Like until it has to become forced, otherwise it's gonna crumble. Um,
Well, I don't think when most of us, right, who haven't come from money or don't come from a family that has a business background, we have this idea of what an entrepreneur is, right? Somebody who creates a widget and takes that widget to the market and sells that widget for a profit. I mean, that's about as much as we know. And so we try to find our widget. My widget is real estate investing. I'm an entrepreneur at the core. My widget's houses. So, but with that first step, that's all well and good. And we get into it, we get a taste of it, and we start making money. But then it's like, okay, well, now how do you make this forever? How do you make this a business? And that's the part that a lot of us don't know. That's the part a lot of us don't understand going into this. And most of us learn through trial and error. We have to fail multiple times before we really figure out, okay, well, this isn't working the way I've been doing it. I got to do something different. And that's ultimately the journey a lot of us go through. And so that's where it's important to, I think, align yourself with people who are on the same journey you're on, get your circle right, or identify a mentor that has been through it already that can help map some of these things out for you, help you see your blind spots so you don't have to learn those things on your own. Otherwise, you're going to bang your head against the wall until you figure it out. And that's the unfortunate part. And that's, I think, why people quit too, is because they realize like, this ain't easy. It's not easy being an entrepreneur. You eat what you kill, and that's it. And if you don't kill, you don't eat. And so, ultimately, at the end of the day, a lot of people start to realize, well, maybe it's not as cool as I thought it would be. Once you get past the pain points, if you're willing to work through the pain points, if you're willing to, fail a few times and get yourself up and dust yourself off and figure out, what it was that you were failing at and fix it, then the journey becomes easier and perpetually easier. I mean, the pressure changes and the problems change, but I think the journey becomes easier.
Love that. I absolutely love that, because there is a big admiration that I have with you, for example, a flipper that does so many flips per year. and also holds other business models inside your own company, which I'd love to talk to you about that right now. It's because I see a lot of colleagues, friends, partners trying to do 3 flips a month, and it's just crumbling. It's just exhausting. It's like they can't get it right. They're all over the place, and they don't have a project manager. They have to be in there. It's just they can't really pass even 2 3 flips a month or something like that. It's going to be so hard. So you develop systems to do it at a higher level, a higher scale. So I really admire that. And not only that, man. Right now, what's the other business model that you currently hold in your company? So you do flips. What else you do?
Well, of course, in the real estate investing side, we do flips and wholesales. That's our primary business model there. We have a sister company that's a real estate brokerage. We don't focus on building it, but it's there. We have agents. I have an education company that we have a mastermind community and some coaching and mentoring products and courses and coaching and things to do for people who want to get started or grow their business. And we do that. I do a lot. I have the podcast, which obviously takes up time and energy, and I do a lot of speaking. So balancing all that takes some solid systems and processes and solid team members around you for sure.
Absolutely, especially because some people don't even dare to touch on the rehab side. Like they don't dare. Is this something that you walk people through on? Like, you start as a wholesaler and they're doing fine, like to start doing like 10, 15, 20 deals a month, just start doing decent, and they want to do rehabs either to hold these properties or just do rehabs, right?
Right.
Do you walk through people through this?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we're in the process of putting together the finishing touches on a course that will walk people through rehabbing at a fairly decent success rate and level. And of course, we're in 2022 we're going to be doing a couple of 3-day like mini mastermind. We call them immersions, where we're just going to hit on rehab. We're going to spend 3 days on rehabbing and systems and process around rehabbing. It's I'll say this, and just to be real, because that's what I'm about, is being real. There's no like, I'm going to wave a magic wand and you're going to instantly be able to rehab 10 houses a month without any problems. I'm going to tell you that right now, hands down. But what I will be able to do is lay out the path to be able to put the right team and processes and systems around you, the right ways to borrow, the right ways to structure things around you, so that way you can build the business you want to build. And that is going to, for the lack of I guess sugarcoating it takes a minute, because really there's some fundamental things you got to do, like, finding the right people, contractors, you got to sort through some of the dirt to find the gold. But I can show you what the gold looks like and what you need to be looking for. And once you get the gold, how to structure your relationship so that you can have success with them long-term, things like that, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, we're in the works of mapping all that out for people. And I do some one-on-one consultation as well.
Love that, man. So let's give the audience some value here, some diamond nuggets here. So walking from being a wholesaler, someone that started the business doing the more of the middle person side, all the way to actually being at the end cash buyer, flipper, rehabber. What are these mindset, or what are these shifts as a whole that need to be taken into consideration that will bring the right fundamentals together for that type of business model?
Well, let me so I'll say that I'm going to break down systems first. So people complicate systems and they think that's this thing where it's this crazy complicated, super secret deal that successful people have. And really, systems are their boundaries, or if this, then that situations. And everybody's organization, they're going to look a little different. So understanding that a system is a process that you implement in your organization that you do every time something happens, if that makes sense. So if you get a property in contract, what is the one thing you do every time? For us, our project manager has to see the project, has to give their thumbs up on the budget before we close. That's one of our systems. It's a process we have in our organization. So identifying what things in your university to be addressed in order for you to be comfortable taking on projects. Again, sticking on systems. The way I look at systems is it's a person, it's a process, or it's a program. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you're looking to hire somebody that's going to fix the problem for you. You're looking for a process that's going to fix the problem for you, or you're looking for a program solution. So, for instance, we use Slack in our organization as a program.
I love
And
Slack.
yeah, and Slack is our only method of communication about a project. All communication is within that project's Slack channel. And so we don't text or email about that. That way there's no confusion about who approves something and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, that solves a lot of the big questions that we run into.
So you standardize the communication method with Slack, even with the contractors or people there in your team. Is that how?
So people within our team. So contractors outside. One of the things you're going to learn about contractors is a lot of them are not tech savvy. And so that's Slack channel strictly for our team, but it's a process and a program. If you notice, it's two of the three. Actually it's a person, a process, and a program, because you have to train the people to use Slack properly, to implement the process and to use the program. But it standardizes the communication and keeps it all in one spot. And so there's no confusion about anything. Anything you need is there: pictures, documents. When we open the Slack channel, what we're going to make on the property, who the escrow officer is, so on and so forth. Like everything is there in the Slack channel. Every Slack channel is open the exact same way.
I absolutely love that. Actually, myself in the organization, we have standardized Slack, just like you. We create standard operating procedures in using Slack, but we combine ClickUp and they communicate with each other. Like they actually just communicate with each other. Because I can see ClickUp with task management and maybe like timelines, putting things like that, where things that have to do for a respective thing, and it communicates with Slack, sends out the link right there, immediately the URL of the ClickUp area, so that whatever that is, and Slack is in there, everything. So are you using any other form of project management software, or right now it's Slack for communication, and you store everything there?
We store everything in there for the most part for team communication. Our project managers, I'm going to lay it out there. Whiteboarding, Google Sheets is essentially our project management tool. We've tried different programs. Asana is a great tool for project management. Some of our Inner Circle Elite Mastermind members use Asana for project management. Myself and my project managers are very visual, so we like to whiteboard things out, and then they keep track of budgets and everything in the Google Sheets, and that works really, really well for us. What I would say is, if you're going to implement a program or software for project management into your operation, just make sure it doesn't create more work, if that makes sense. It's a lot easier for me to walk up and whiteboard something out as far as, the project address, who the contractor is, contact information, timeline, dates, than it is for me to sit down in a software program and do a Gantt chart and figure out where everything goes, if that makes sense. So figure out what works well for you, implement it, and make sure your team utilizes it the same way every time.
Guys, if you know about Don Costa, or even if you don't know, well, he's the giver, and he's someone that likes giving, because if he did not have a podcast, all right, I'm pretty sure his head would explode with so much information to just share with the world.
Right.
Like his podcast, which is Flip Talk. How do we find your podcast? Just Google Flip Talk. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's on iTunes, it's on Stitcher, it's on Google Play, it's everywhere. I've been doing the podcast for 6 years consistently. I've taken about 2 months off. I haven't released an episode about 2 months, but at the beginning of January we're going to do a big relaunch. But it's been 6 years that I have been dropping episodes on that podcast, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. So there is a ton of episodes there if you've never listened. I have a second podcast called Flip Talk Rookie Playbook. Flip Talk Rookie Playbook. Can't get my words out. And that was 49 episodes we did, where it goes week 1. Like, you have a crazy idea of being a real estate investor. What do you do first? And we go through 49 weeks on that one. I'm getting ready to do a redo of that one as well. But so there's two out there. And you can find them on, like I said, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. You can go to fliptalk.com and you can find episodes there. So there is there's a ton. I can't believe when I think about it, 6 years, bro.
Wow, man, look at the consistency. Like
Right.
look at that consistency, that determination of just launching pretty much free stuff, you know?
Right.
Like you have built a true educational platform where people can go there,
Mhm.
search gofliptalk.com and search for an episode that will suit your need at the current moment. Maybe you're in the gym, you're walking dog, you're actually going on I don't know, cleaning your house after work, relaxing. And the Flip Talk has those proper episodes that he brings other players that will
Mhm.
bring you those nuggets. But man, Don Costa, I want to crown you as the king of flips.
I don't know if I deserve that, but okay, thank you.
Is everything single family right now?
I mean, I've done a few like multifamily things, nothing huge. I think the biggest one that we've rehabbed and flipped was a sixplex, but mostly it's almost all single family. Yeah.
Okay. One thing that I do want to really talk real fast with you is this, man. Like, you've done California, you've lived in California, one of the hardest states to doing this business. It's just, it's just, terrific, the amount of people that they are in California, but then they start doing everything in another state because they start finding so much trouble. How are you doing that right now with your flips? Like,
It's doing it right in California, you mean?
yeah, in California.
Well, let me put it in perspective. I'm in the Central Valley, so California is almost like 3 or 4 or 5 different states. I'll just be honest with you, as far as it's regional. So you have Southern California, you have Northern California, you have the Bay Area, you have Central Valley, and so the Central Valley is much more like most of the United States in the sense that it's very conservative values. It's a farming community, for the most part, even though it's a large city. Our city is about 500,000 and we have our counties about 1 million. It's not small by any means, but it's much more, it's priced like most of the country. As far as the lifestyle here is very laid back, and easygoing. There's a lot of, like I said, it's a farming community, a lot of almonds and nut crops and citrus crops. So you have a lot of very wealthy farmers that you wouldn't even know because they're going to drive beat up trucks and wear blue jeans. And it's, like I said, it's just kind of chill. So it's not, when you picture California, you're picturing beach lifestyle or you're picturing Bay Area or LA lifestyle. And that's not what the Central Valley is by any means. Our average rehab is going to be somewhere in a resale value between about 175 to 275. So that's much more like the rest of the country. We do stuff in the Bay Area, we do stuff in LA, but most of what we do in those areas is wholesale. And we do stuff out of state. We're in Tennessee and a couple other states, and we pretty much all wholesale outside of California.
I love that. So if someone is in California and it's in South having trouble with LA area or even San Francisco on even just wholesaling and $1 million homes everywhere, I'm not saying here for them to take over and take in your market, but is Central Valley like a good market to be doing wholesale and flipping there?
Central Valley sucks. It's horrible.
Oh yeah,
I'm just kidding. No, it's fine. It's good, and we do have a lot of competition from the Bay Area and from LA. It's like, the Bay, you're not going to do 100 deals a year, but you're going to do 5 or 10, and they're going to be 6-figure profits, if that makes sense. So in Central Valley, you might do 100 deals a year, but then you're talking about $25,000 average profit type of thing. So you're still not at huge profits. So it's a trade off. Do you want to do more work for less money? Do you want to do less work for more money? And so you just got to decide where you want to be in the market. If that makes sense.
absolutely. What are your forms of lead generation right now?
So cold calling is a big one for us right now. Direct mail is still one of our lead generation forms. In 2018, 2019, direct mail was our biggest marketing channel. Just to throw people out there some perspective, between 2018 and 2019 combined, I sent out over 2 million postcards. So I understand it backwards and forwards. There are some changes that are happening in the industry with some of the changes with the U.S. Postal Service, but it's still a channel for us. But ultimately, those are my 2 tried and true. We do some text messaging, we do some other things, but I like the old school stuff.
There you go. So with old school stuff, you definitely have gotten really good value, really good return of investment. And but a lot of people really just hate and don't get anything out of cold calling or direct mail. Like what's been your your true superpower apart from consistency? You've been so consistent, but really, what's your been superpower doing that?
Well, I would say, to put it in perspective, some people love PPC and some people hate PPC. Some people love Facebook and some people hate Facebook.
Yeah.
The channel that is going to work for you is a channel you're going to put the time and energy into. And some of that is belief. Like if you go into it believing it's not going to work, then it's not going to work. Every marketing channel, no matter what it is, takes a minute to build momentum. It has a runway. And that is a practical fact. So whether it's direct mail or cold calling or PPC or Facebook or SEO or text messaging, there is a runway. And usually it's 60 to 90 days before you see any real traction in a marketing channel. What probably happened was they tried a marketing channel and didn't get instant success, and they went on to another marketing channel and did get some instant success, because sometimes that happens, right? A broken clock is right twice a day, and you might hit it out of the field on a marketing channel right out of the gate and think, oh well, this is the holy grail of marketing, and that's where I'm going to spend my time and energy. So that's the practical reality. All marketing channels work if you put enough time or money into them. And so everybody, there's this threshold, right, that you have where if you're down here and you're not putting enough time or money and crossing that line, you're not going to get any momentum in any marketing channel. You put enough time and energy, you start to get momentum, and you build momentum. So what you focus on is what's going to get you success. And then the last thing I'll say about that is most marketing is not broken at the level of marketing. Most marketing is broken because everything that happens after the phone rings. So if you don't have the proper people or systems or processes in place when that phone rings to answer the call, like if you're sending it to voicemail and not getting back to them for 3 or 4 days, your marketing channel is probably not going to work no matter what marketing channel it is. So if your team is not trained properly to listen to what the seller is saying, to identify a problem or an issue, to actually hear a need that needs to be solved or ask for the close, then your marketing channel is going to be broken no matter what marketing channel that is. If you have something in your process that's broken where you're not executing the transaction coordination properly, like communicating with the seller and communicating with title and pushing things to the finish line, reaching out to your buyers in a timely manner to get it wholesaled off and assigned, and you let these things linger to the point that the seller gets disgruntled or frustrated, then you're probably not going to have success in a marketing channel, no matter what marketing channel it is. And of course, if you run into title issues and you don't have the ability to ask the right questions to resolve those issues, you're going to end up with a high attrition, and you're probably going to feel like that marketing channel is not working. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you got to look at your marketing as a whole, not just what you're doing on the front end, but what's your entire process the time you get your check.
Man, it's all about look at the perspective that you just gave.
Mhm.
It's all about going all in at the end of the day,
Mhm.
and understanding the few different fundamentals and the principles of what each marketing needs, combined with the conversion part, which exactly what you just talked about. Like, how am I going to convert that lead? And that's amazing. I love that. I teach this. I tell this. I teach to my team. I teach this to the people that are listening to us, all people that are in insider program. They, of course, they understand as well. But at the same time, the most important thing is for me to really relay this message with my team, the people that are helping the people out, right? The
Mhm.
sellers, right? Helping other users of our software, of our membership, come in here. You know, the generation is not working, or like whenever I jump in the call, nothing's happening. I'm not converting. So this is so huge, man, because the real Don is keeping it real. Look at that.
Right. Right. It's the
That's
point, right?
awesome. It is the point. I
Right.
love that. You're like going straight for it. Man, if people want to ever talk to you and your team, have the opportunity to, just just go inside your inner circle, just be more closer to you, travel to the beautiful California, or even just do it virtually. It doesn't matter. How can people reach you?
I'm going to throw out a couple of things. Dawn at fliptalk.com you can always send me an email. Let me know you heard me on this show and that you're interested in some of the things we have going on. And then I'll reply, obviously with whatever information I can provide you. If you're interested in the mastermind community, you can go to beinThisRoom.com. And that's the Inner Circle Elite Mastermind community. So, but ultimately, I would try those two things. Fliptalk.com is the website. You can go check that out. So, I don't want to give too much information out there, but fliptalk.com is the website. So, Dawn at fliptalk.com is the email. And yeah, so I answer questions. It's not be in my circle or pay me, or I won't answer your question. I answer questions. And if you find value in what I have to provide, we have a lot of other things to offer to help you grow your business. And that's kind of how we roll.
Look at that real Don. I absolutely love that type of mentality, man. If you guys are ever wanting to be a podcast host that did like this guy, you have to have this. You have to have this. It's just given, I love that. So thank you so much, guys, for listening to this Online Hustlers podcast and the REI marketing and conversion series that we having right now with the amazing Don Costa. I really want to ask you guys only one thing is to share this with everyone around your audience, your circle. Download or subscribe to this channel if you're watching on YouTube, and make sure that you play this in any channel for podcasts out there, Spotify, Audible, Apple Podcasts, iHeart. There are so many out there. You can find us anywhere that feels comfortable for you. And if you love this, then just follow at the real Don Costa in Instagram. You see it right there. I love having this guy in here. And is there anything you would like to say to your audience before we leave?
Yeah, I mean, just do you find your path and find your people and grow the business you want. I think one of the things I will say is just get out of your own head and do your thing and make sure you surround yourself with good people. And what I mean by that is the people that support you and have your back, that really, are going to help you out, as far as your journey goes, and don't let any of the naysayers take you down. You're going to have moments that suck. We all do. I'm going through one right now. We all do. And money doesn't change. Having moments that suck, growth does. As you grow, they suck less. So, and build a business you want. That's a lot of things. Not build a business you want. Don't build a prison. So be mindful of what you're doing. Don't chase somebody else's highlight reel.
Yeah, love that. Thank you so much, Don, for being here. And see you all in the next episode of the Online Hustlers podcast. See you guys.